The asterisk Emma Harrison pressed her back against the cold brick wall of the alley, her heart hammering so hard she was certain the men chasing her could hear it from 3 blocks away. The manila envelope containing the photos and documents felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in her trembling hands. She had stumbled upon the biggest story of her career. But it might also be the last story she ever wrote. As a freelance journalist, barely making ends meet in Chicago, Emma had taken what seemed like a simple assignment: write a fluff piece about successful local businesses for a community magazine. Easy money, she had thought. But when she started digging into Blackstone Industries, the numbers didn't add up. The company claimed to be a legitimate construction firm, but their financial records told a different story entirely. Late nights, spent cross-referencing public documents and following paper trails, had revealed a web of money laundering, bribery, and connections to some very dangerous people. Emma had gotten too close to the truth. Begins the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the narrow alley. Emma clutched the envelope tighter and tried to control her breathing. She had been smart enough to make copies of everything and store them in 3 different locations. But that wouldn't help her if she didn't survive the night. She went this way, a gruff voice called out. Check every doorway, every dumpster. She can't have gone far. Emma's blood ran cold. These weren't just hired thugs. It moved with military precision, spoke in clipped professional tones. Whoever wanted her silenced had sent serious people to do the job. She waited until the footsteps moved past her hiding spot, then carefully made her way toward the street. She could just reach her car, maybe she could get to the police station before they caught up with her. But as she emerged from the alley, a black sedan pulled up at the curb, blocking her path. 2 more men got out, scanning the area with practiced eyes. Emma's escape route was cut off. Panic rising in her throat, she turned and ran in the opposite direction, her sneakers slipping on the wet pavement as she sprinted toward the financial district. Anne, unexpected savior, the streets were eerily quiet at this late hour. Emma's lungs burned as she pushed herself harder, taking random turns in hopes of losing her pursuers. But she could hear them behind her, coordinating through radio headsets. Gradually closing the net around her, she ducked into a parking garage, hoping to find another way out, but realized too late that she had trapped herself. The sound of car doors slamming echoed through the concrete structure. They had found her. Emma pressed herself against a concrete pillar, trying to become invisible. In the shadows between the parked cars, her phone was dead, her pepper spray was in her purse back at the office, and she was running out of options fast. There's nowhere to run now, Miss Harrison called out a voice that made her skin crawl. We just want to talk. Come out, and nobody gets hurt. Emma knew better than to believe that lie. She had seen too much, knew too much. These people didn't leave loose ends. That's when she heard it. The low growl of a powerful engine echoing through the garage. Bright headlights suddenly illuminated the space, and a sleek black sports car came tearing around the corner at dangerous speed. The mysterious rescuer, the car, came to a screeching halt between Emma and her pursuers. The driver's door opened, and a tall figure in an expensive suit stepped out. Even in the dim light of the parking garage, Emma could see that this wasn't just any random late-night commuter. Everything about him spoke of wealth and power, from his perfectly tailored clothing to the confident way he carried himself. "Gentlemen," the stranger said, his voice calm but carrying an undeniable authority, "I think you're lost." "Concern you, buddy," one of the pursuers growled. "Walk away," the stranger smiled, but there was nothing friendly about it. "Actually, it does concern me. You see, this is my building, my parking garage, and those are my security cameras recording everything that's happening right now." Emma watched in amazement as the men who had been hunting her suddenly looked uncertain. They glanced at each other, clearly not expecting this complication. "Now," the stranger continued, pulling out his phone, "I'm going to count to 10. You're not gone by then. I'll be calling some friends of mine who take a very dim view of armed men threatening innocent people on my property." The lead pursuer started to argue, but another man grabbed his arm and whispered something urgent in his ear. Emma caught fragments of the conversation. Something about not worth the exposure and too many witnesses. Dangerous gamble, this. "Isn't over?" the lead man called out as they began retreating toward their vehicles. Tell your girlfriend she can't hide forever. Actually, the stranger replied cheerfully, she can. And she will. Emma remained frozen behind the pillar until the sound of car engines faded into the distance. Only then did she emerge from her hiding spot, still clutching the envelope that had nearly cost her life. The stranger turned to face her. And for the first time, Emma got a good look at her unexpected savior. He was younger than she had expected, probably early 30s, with dark hair and the kind of sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. His suit probably cost more than she made in 6 months, but he wore it with casual ease. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice gentler, now that the danger had passed. Emma shook her head, not trusting herself to speak yet. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, leaving her feeling shaky and vulnerable. "Good," he said. "I'm Sebastian Cross, and you're Emma Harrison, the journalist who's been asking uncomfortable questions about Blackstone Industries." Emma's eyes widened. "How do you know who I am?" Sebastian smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. "I make it my business to know when someone is getting close to exposing the kind of corruption that gives legitimate businesses a bad name. The question is, what are you planning to do with what you've discovered?" The offer. Emma studied his face, trying to read his intentions. Was he another threat, just better dressed than the others? Or was he genuinely trying to help? "I'm going to publish the truth," she said finally, lifting her chin with more confidence than she felt. "People have a right to know what Blackstone Industries is really doing." Sebastian nodded approvingly. "I was hoping you'd say that. You realize, of course, that those men will be back. They're not going to give up just because I scared them off once." The reality of her situation hit Emma like a physical blow. Her apartment wasn't safe. Her office wasn't safe. She had nowhere to go and no money to disappear even if she wanted to. "What am I supposed to do?" she whispered. "I can't fight people like that on my own." "You don't have to," Sebastian said quietly. "I have a proposition for you." It might sound crazy, but hear me out. Emma waited, hardly daring to breathe. "I can offer you protection, resources, everything you need to not just survive, but to see your story published in every major newspaper in the country. But in return, I need something from you." "What kind of something?" Emma asked suspiciously. Sebastian hesitated for just a moment, as if he couldn't quite believe what he was about to say. "I need you to marry me." A desperate alliance. Seema stared at him in disbelief. "I'm sorry, what?" "I know how it sounds," Sebastian said quickly, "but let me explain. My grandmother has been pressuring me to settle down for years. She's threatened to restructure her will, giving controlling interest in cross technologies to my cousin if I don't produce a wife by my 32nd birthday." "And when is your 32nd birthday?" Emma asked faintly. "Next month?" Emma felt like the world had tilted sideways. First, she had been chased by armed men. Now, a billionaire was proposing marriage to a complete stranger. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," Sebastian replied. "Think about it logically. You need protection and resources to expose Blackstone Industries. I need a wife to secure my inheritance. We help each other. But we don't even know each other," Emma protested. "We'll learn," Sebastian said with surprising confidence. "Look, Emma, I've spent the last 6 months investigating Blackstone Industries myself. They've been trying to muscle their way into several legitimate construction projects, threatening to undercut honest businesses with their dirty money. I want to see them brought down just as much as you do." Emma's mind was reeling. "Why would you risk everything to help me? You don't know me from anyone." Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, studying her face in the dim light of the parking garage. "Because," he said finally, "in the 30 minutes I've been watching you tonight, you've shown more courage and integrity than most people display in a lifetime. You risked everything to expose the truth, even when you knew it would put you in danger. That's the kind of person I want as a partner." The decision. I looked down at the envelope in her hands, then back at Sebastian's earnest face. The sensible part of her mind was screaming that this was insane. You didn't marry strangers. No matter how handsome or wealthy or apparently sincere they were. But the practical part of her mind was doing calculations. She had $17 in her checking account, no family to turn to. a group of very dangerous people who wanted her dead. Sebastian Cross was offering her not just safety, but the resources to actually make a difference. If I agreed to this insanity, she said slowly, what would the terms be? Strictly business, Sebastian assured her. Separate bedrooms, respect for each other's privacy, and when the Blackstone Industries story breaks, and my grandmother is satisfied that I've settled down, we can quietly divorce. No one gets hurt, and we both get what we need. Emma closed her eyes, trying to think clearly. When she opened them again, Sebastian was watching her with patient understanding. Those men won't give up, she said quietly. They'll keep coming. After me. Not if you're under my protection, they won't. Sebastian replied firmly. Cross Technologies has security resources that rival government agencies. Once you're my wife, touching you becomes touching me, and I have enough influence in this city to make that a very expensive mistake. The sound of approaching sirens made them both look toward the garage entrance. Sebastian pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Building security, he explained to Emma. I had them contact the police when I saw what was happening. You'll need to file a report, but don't mention the Blackstone documents yet.
We need
time to plan how to release that information safely. As police cars pulled into the garage, Emma made her decision. She looked at Sebastian Cross, the stranger who had literally appeared out of nowhere to save her life, and took the biggest leap of faith she had ever taken. Okay, she said quietly, let's do this. Sebastian's face lit up with a smile that transformed his entire appearance. Really? Really? Emma confirmed, then added with a shaky laugh, but I reserve the right to think you're completely crazy, noted. Sebastian replied, taking her hand as the police officers approached. Welcome to the family, Emma Cross. As they walked toward the approaching officers, Emma couldn't help but wonder what she had just gotten herself into. 24 hours ago, her biggest worry had been making rent. She was about to become the wife of one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors, all in the name of exposing a criminal conspiracy. She glanced at Sebastian's profile as he began, explaining the situation to the police, noting the way his jaw tightened when he described the men who had been chasing her. Whatever his motivations, he seemed genuinely angry about what had happened to her. Maybe, just maybe, this crazy plan might actually work. The morning after the parking garage incident, Emma woke up in the most luxurious hotel suite she had ever seen. Sebastian had insisted she couldn't return to her apartment, and the penthouse at the Grand Chicago felt like stepping into another world entirely. Floor-tizzling windows offered a breathtaking view of Lake Michigan, and the marble bathroom was larger than her entire studio apartment. Emma stood at the window, sipping coffee from a cup that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget, trying to process the surreal turn her life had taken. In less than 12 hours, she had gone from a struggling freelance journalist to the future wife of Sebastian Cross, one of Chicago's youngest tech billionaires. A gentle knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Emma, are you awake? Sebastian's voice called through the ornate wooden door. Come in, she called back, suddenly self-conscious in the hotel bathrobe that was softer than anything she had ever owned. Sebastian entered, carrying a large shopping bag and wearing a smile that seemed almost nervous. He had traded his expensive suit for dark jeans and a casual button-down shirt, making him look younger and more approachable. I took the liberty of having some clothes sent up, he said, setting the bag on the coffee table. I wasn't sure of your size, but I had my assistant estimate based on security footage from last night. Emma raised an eyebrow. You have people analyzing security footage to determine my clothing size. When you put it like that, it sounds creepy, Sebastian admitted with a laugh. I prefer to think of it as being thorough. Meeting the family as Emma examined the beautiful clothes Sebastian had provided, he cleared his throat nervously. There's something we need to discuss. My grandmother wants to meet you. Your grandmother? Emma looked up from the elegant blue dress she was holding. Already? Victoria Cross doesn't believe in wasting time, Sebastian explained. She called this morning demanding to meet the woman who supposedly stole my heart, so completely that I proposed after knowing her for one evening. Emma felt panic rising in her chest. Sebastian, I don't know anything about your family, your background, your interests. How am I supposed to convince your grandmother that we're in love? Sebastian sat down across from her, his expression serious. We'll prepare. I'll tell you everything you need to know about my life, and you can tell me about yours. By the time we meet with Grandmother Victoria, we'll know each other well enough to be convincing. And if we're not convincing, then I lose control of cross technologies, and you lose the protection and resources you need to expose Blackstone Industries, Sebastian said simply. So we'd better be convincing. For the next 3 hours, they sat in the hotel suite sharing their life stories. Emma learned that Sebastian had built cross technologies from nothing after dropping out of MIT at 19. His parents had died in a car accident when he was 25, leaving him as the sole heir to both the tech company and his grandmother's vast real estate empire. Sebastian learned that Emma had grown up in foster care, putting herself through journalism school. With scholarships and part-time jobs, she had been working as a freelancer for 2 years, barely scraping by but determined to make a difference through investigative reporting. You've been alone for a long time, Sebastian observed quietly after Emma finished describing her background. Or so, have you? Emma replied, noting the sadness that crossed his features when he talked about his parents. Maybe that's why this arrangement makes sense, Sebastian said. We both understand what it's like to only have ourselves to rely on. The grandmother's Tess Victoria Cross lived in a mansion that looked like it belonged in a European fairy tale. The elderly woman who greeted them at the door was tiny but formidable, with silver hair perfectly styled and sharp blue eyes that seemed to see everything. So, Victoria said without preamble, leading them into an elegant sitting room, "You're the young woman who finally captured my grandson's attention." Mrs. Cross, Emma began, but Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "Please, call me Grandmother Victoria. We're family now, after all." The older woman settled into a high-backed chair that looked like a throne. "Now, Sebastian tells me you're a journalist. How fascinating. What kind of stories do you write?" Emma glanced at Sebastian nervously. They had agreed to stick as close to the truth as possible. "I specialize in investigative reporting, particularly corporate corruption and financial crimes." "Dangerous work," Victoria observed. "Is that how you two met? Through one of your investigations?" "Actually," Sebastian interjected smoothly, "we met when Emma was researching a story about ethical business practices in the tech industry. She interviewed me for an article about companies that prioritize social responsibility." It was a clever lie, Emma realized. Close enough to the truth to be believable, but without mentioning the actual circumstances of their meeting. And it was love at first sight? Victoria's tone was skeptical. Emma felt her cheeks warm. "Not exactly at first sight," she said carefully. But Sebastian was unlike anyone I had ever interviewed. Most executives give polished, rehearsed answers. Sebastian was honest, passionate about his work, and genuinely interested in making a positive impact. "She asked better questions than any journalist I had ever spoken with," Sebastian added, his eyes meeting Emma's. "Smart, insightful, not afraid to challenge my assumptions." By the end of the interview, I knew I wanted to see her again. Victoria watched this exchange with interest. "And how long have you been together?" 6 weeks, Sebastian replied without hesitation. They had agreed on this timeline during their preparation. 6 weeks and you're already engaged? Victoria's eyebrows rose. "That seems rather sudden, even for you, Sebastian." Emma felt her pulse quicken. This was the crucial moment. "Sometimes you just know," she said softly, looking at Sebastian. "When something feels right, why wait?" To her surprise, Sebastian reached over and took her hand. His fingers were warm, and the gesture felt surprisingly natural. "Emma makes me want to be better than I am," Sebastian said quietly. "She challenges me, inspires me, makes me laugh. I've never felt this way about anyone before." The sincerity in his voice was so convincing that for a moment, Emma almost believed he meant it. Dangerous complications, Victoria seemed satisfied with their performance. But as they were preparing to leave, she made an announcement that changed everything. "I'm so pleased you found each other," she said, smiling warmly at both of them. "In fact, I'm so excited about this engagement that I've decided to throw you a proper engagement party. This Saturday evening, at the country club." I've already started making calls. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. Mrs. Cross, that's incredibly generous, but it's really not necessary. Nonsense, Victoria replied firmly. The Cross family doesn't do anything small. We'll invite everyone who matters in Chicago society. It will be the event of the season. As they drove away from Victoria's mansion, Emma turned to Sebastian and panic? A public engagement party? Sebastian, this is spiraling out of control. What if someone recognizes me from the Blackstone investigation? What if those men from last night show up? Sebastian's jaw was tense as he navigated the Chicago traffic. We'll hire security. Lots of security. We'll use the party as an opportunity to make your safety public knowledge. Once everyone in Chicago knows you're under my protection, Blackstone Industries won't dare touch you. Or they'll see it as a challenge, Emma countered. Sebastian, these people have already shown they're willing to use violence. What if they decide that the best way to silence me is to eliminate both of us? Sebastian pulled over to the side of the road and turned to face her. Emma, I know this is scary. I know it's not what we planned, but we can't back down now. Too much is at stake for you, maybe, Emma said quietly. You'll get your inheritance either way. But I'm the one putting everything on the line. Do you really think I'm only doing this for the money? Sebastian asked. His voice hurt. Emma studied his face, noting the genuine concern in his eyes. I don't know what to think anymore. This whole situation is insane. Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. You're right, he said finally. This is insane. And it's completely unfair to ask you to take these risks just to help me secure my inheritance. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. This is the contact information for a friend of mine who runs a private security firm. He can arrange for you to disappear completely. New identity, relocation, enough money to start over somewhere safe. Emma stared at the card. You'd let me go? I'd hate it, Sebastian admitted. But yes, if that's what you want, I'll help you disappear. Your safety is more important than my family's company. The sincerity in his voice touched something deep in Emma's chest. Here was a man who barely knew her, offering to sacrifice his inheritance to keep her safe. It was either the most elaborate manipulation she had ever encountered, or Sebastian Cross was genuinely one of the good guys. A leap of faith. Emma looked at the business card for a long moment, then handed it back. To Sebastian. I'm not running, Emma. You don't have to. I'm not running, she repeated firmly. Those people at Blackstone Industries think they can intimidate me into silence. They think that because I'm just one person without money or power, I'll give up and disappear. Well, they're wrong. Sebastian's face lit up with admiration. Are you sure? I'm sure, Emma said, feeling more confident than she had since this whole nightmare began. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. I want to know everything about your grandmother's party, who's going to be there, what the security arrangements are, and exactly how we're going to use this event to expose Blackstone Industries. Sebastian asked with a smile. Emma confirmed. You saved my life, Sebastian Cross. The least I can do is help you save your company. As they drove back toward the hotel, Emma found herself studying Sebastian's profile. Over the course of one day, he had become her protector, her fake fiancé, and something that felt dangerously close to a real friend. She was beginning to understand why Victoria Cross was so taken with him. Behind the wealth and the expensive clothes was a genuinely good man. Sebastian, she said quietly, can I ask you something? Anything. When you told your grandmother that I make you want to be better than you are, that I challenge and inspire you, ... Emma hesitated. Were you acting? Sebastian was quiet for so long that Emma thought he wasn't going to answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. That's the problem, Emma. I don't think I was acting at all. The Lakeside Country Club had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in ivory silk, and arrangements of white roses and baby's breath created an atmosphere of elegant romance. Emma stood in the bridal suite, staring at her reflection in disbelief. The dress Sebastian had chosen for her was a masterpiece of midnight. Blue silk that hugged her curves perfectly before flowing into a graceful skirt. A stylist had arranged. Her hair in an elegant updo and professional makeup had transformed her from struggling journalist into someone who looked like she belonged in Sebastian's world. "You looked absolutely stunning," said Detective Maria Rodriguez, who had arrived an hour earlier to brief them on the latest developments in the Blackstone Industries investigation. "I feel like I'm playing dress-up," Emma admitted, smoothing down the expensive fabric nervously. "Oh, you're playing the part perfectly," Detective Rodriguez assured her. "We've confirmed that several Blackstone executives will be attending tonight. They're getting bold, probably hoping to get close enough to figure out exactly what you know." Emma's stomach clenched with anxiety. "What if they recognize me?" "That's why we're here," Detective Rodriguez replied, gesturing to the subtle earpiece. She was wearing "My team has the entire venue covered. Sebastian's security people are coordinating with us." "Nothing is going to happen to you tonight." Soft knock interrupted their conversation. "Emma, are you ready?" Sebastian's voice came through the door. Emma took a deep breath and opened the door, immediately noticing the way Sebastian's eyes widened when he saw her. "Wow," he breathed, looking genuinely stunned. "You're beautiful." "Thank you," Emma replied, feeling her cheeks warm. Sebastian looked devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo, and she had to remind herself that this was all still pretend. Dangerous Encounters the party was already in full swing when they made their entrance. Chicago's elite had turned out in force, and Emma was struck by the realization that she was now moving in circles she had only read about in society magazines. Victoria Cross beamed with pride as she introduced Emma to a steady stream of prominent business leaders, politicians, and socialites. Emma found herself falling into the role more naturally than she had expected, discussing current events and social causes with people who actually had the power to make changes. "You're a natural at this," Sebastian murmured in her ear during a brief moment between introductions. "It's easier than I thought it would be," Emma admitted. "Most of these people are actually interesting to talk to." "Careful," Sebastian said. With a smile, "You might start enjoying the lifestyle." It was during the dinner service that Emma spotted him. Marcus Blackstone, the CEO of Blackstone Industries, was seated at a table across the room, watching her with cold, calculating eyes. He was younger than she had expected, probably early 40s, with silver-streaked hair and the kind of sharp suit that spoke of serious money. "Sebastian," Emma whispered, her hand tightening on his arm. "He's here." Sebastian followed her gaze, and his expression hardened. "I see him. Remember what we discussed. Stay calm, stay close to me, and let security handle everything else." Blackstone had no intention of keeping his distance. As the evening progressed, he made his way steadily closer to their table, stopping to chat with mutual acquaintances and gradually working his way into their social circle. "The confrontation, Sebastian," Cross Blackstone said smoothly when he finally reached their table during the cocktail hour. "Congratulations on your engagement." "I don't believe I've had the pleasure of meeting your beautiful fiancé, Marcus Blackstone," Sebastian replied coolly, standing to shake the other man's hand. "Emma, this is Marcus Blackstone. He runs a construction company here in Chicago." Emma forced herself to smile and extend her hand, praying that her voice would remain steady. "Mr. Blackstone, lovely to meet you." Blackstone took her hand and held it just a moment too long, his eyes searching her face intently. "The pleasure is entirely mine, Miss... Cross," Emma replied firmly. "Well, it will be Cross soon. Emma Harrison for now." "Harrison," Blackstone repeated thoughtfully. "That name sounds familiar. Do we know each other from somewhere?" "I don't think so," Emma replied, her heart pounding. "I'm a journalist. Perhaps you've seen my byline somewhere." "A journalist?" Blackstone's smile became predatory. "How interesting. What kind of stories do you write?" Sebastian stepped closer to Emma, his hand moving protectively to the small of her back. "Emma specializes in human interest stories. Community profiles, local business features, that sort of thing." "Fascinating," Blackstone said, though his tone suggested he found it anything but. "I'd love to chat more about your work, Miss Harrison. Perhaps we could have lunch sometime soon." "That's very kind," Emma replied carefully, "but I'm afraid my schedule is quite busy with wedding planning." Of course, Blackstone nodded, but his eyes remained cold. "Well, I hope we'll have the opportunity to get better acquainted soon. I have a feeling we have a great deal in common." After Blackstone moved away, Emma felt her knees go weak with relief. "He knows," she whispered to Sebastian. "He definitely knows who I am." Maybe, Sebastian replied quietly, but he can't prove anything, and he can't touch you here with all these witnesses around. As the evening continued, Emma noticed that Blackstone was never far away. He seemed to be watching her every move, waiting for an opportunity to get her alone. She began to understand that this party wasn't just a social event, it was a chess game, with her life hanging in the balance. During the dancing portion of the evening, Sebastian led Emma onto the floor for what was supposed to be their romantic first dance as an engaged couple. But as they swayed to the music, Emma could feel Blackstone's eyes boring into her back. "He's planning something," she murmured against Sebastian's ear. "I can feel it." "I know," Sebastian replied, his arms tightening around her protectively. "Detective Rodriguez and her team are tracking his every move. If he so much as steps out of line, they'll be on him." But Emma's journalist instincts were screaming that something was wrong. Blackstone was too confident, too calm for a man whose criminal empire was about to be exposed. He was acting like someone who held all the cards. Her suspicions were confirmed. When Victoria Cross approached them after their dance, looking uncharacteristically flustered, "Sebastian, dear," she said quietly, "I'm afraid we have a small problem. Someone has been asking questions about Emma's background. Very detailed questions." Emma felt the blood drain from her face. "What kind of questions?" "About your employment, history, your family, your education," Victoria replied worriedly. "I'm afraid someone may be conducting some sort of investigation into your past." Sebastian's expression darkened. "Did you find out who was asking?" "One of Marcus Blackstone's associates," Victoria admitted. "I'm sorry, dear. I had no idea the man was so intrusive." The truth revealed Emma's mind was racing. If Blackstone was investigating her background, it was only a matter of time before he uncovered the truth about her investigation into his company. They needed to act fast. "Sebastian," she said urgently, "we need to talk privately." They excused themselves from the party and found a quiet corner of the country club's library. Emma pulled out her phone and showed Sebastian a series of text messages that had been arriving throughout the evening. "Detective Rodriguez has been sending updates," she explained.
"Oh, explained."
"Blackstone's people have been busy tonight. They've broken into my apartment, my office, and they've been questioning people who know me." Sebastian's face went pale. "Emma, we need to get you out of here now." "No," Emma said firmly. "Don't you see? This is exactly what we've been waiting for. Blackstone is making his move, which means he's desperate. If we can catch him in the act of trying to intimidate or harm me, Detective Rodriguez will have everything. She needs to arrest him." "Absolutely not," Sebastian said immediately. "I'm not using you as bait." "You're not using me as bait," Emma corrected. "I'm volunteering to be bait. It's a difference." Before Sebastian could argue further, the library door opened, and Marcus Blackstone stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said smoothly, but there was nothing friendly about his tone now. "I was hoping to have a private word with Miss Harrison." Sebastian immediately stepped between Emma and Blackstone. "Actually, you are interrupting. We were just heading back to the party." "I don't think so," Blackstone replied. And Emma noticed that two large men had appeared behind him, blocking the doorway. "You see, Miss Harrison and I have some unfinished business to discuss." "The final confrontation? I have no idea what you're talking about," Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady, despite the fear coursing through her veins. Blackstone laughed, but the sound was cold and humorless. "Please, Miss Harrison, or should I say, Miss Chen. Did you really think a change of hair color and some expensive clothes would fool me?" Emma's heart stopped. Somehow Blackstone had uncovered her real identity. She had been working under an assumed name for the investigation, but apparently not well enough. "I think you have me confused with someone else," she said carefully. "The investigative journalist who's been digging into my company's financial records," Blackstone continued as if she hadn't spoken. "The one who's been asking very inconvenient questions about money laundering and illegal transactions. Ring any bells?" Sebastian stepped forward. "Mr. Blackstone, I think you need to leave. Now. Actually, Mr. Cross, I think you need to reconsider your choice in fiancés," Blackstone replied smoothly. "Miss Chen here has been deceiving you. She's not the sweet community journalist she's pretended to be. She's a corporate spy trying to destroy legitimate businesses with false accusations. That's not true, Emma said firmly. Everything I've uncovered about Blackstone Industries is documented fact. You've been using your construction company to launder money for organized crime syndicates. Blackstone's mask finally slipped, revealing the dangerous man underneath. You have no proof of any wrongdoing. Actually, came Detective Rodriguez's voice from the doorway. She has plenty of proof. The detective stepped into the room, followed by several uniformed officers. Emma had never been so happy to see anyone in her life. Marcus Blackstone, Detective Rodriguez, continued formally, "You're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and threatening a witness in a federal investigation." Love triumphant as the police led Blackstone and his associates away. Emma finally allowed herself to breathe. It was over. It's really, truly over. Sebastian immediately pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice shaking with emotion. "I'm okay," Emma assured him, surprised by how right it felt to be in his embrace. "Thanks to you." "Thanks to you," Sebastian corrected. "You were incredibly brave tonight. You could have run, could have let me handle this alone, but you stayed and fought." Emma pulled back to look at his face, noting the genuine admiration in his eyes. "Sebastian, there's something I need to tell you." "What is it?" Emma took a deep breath. "When we started this arrangement, it was supposed to be purely business. Protection for me, a wife for you. But somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling like pretending." Sebastian's face lit up with a smile that transformed his entire appearance. "Emma, are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying that." "I love you," Emma replied, her voice stronger than she had expected. "Really love you. Not fake engagement love, not gratitude love, but real, honest, terrifying love." Sebastian cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gently stroking her cheeks. "I love you too," he said quietly. "I think I started falling in love with you the moment you told me you wouldn't back down from exposing the truth, no matter how dangerous it was." "So what happens now?" Emma asked. "Our engagement was supposed to be fake," Sebastian said with a grin. "I suppose we'll just have to make it real." As Sebastian leaned down to kiss her, Emma realized that sometimes the most unexpected circumstances could lead to the most beautiful outcomes. She had set out to expose corruption and ended up finding love. She had agreed to a fake marriage and discovered a real partnership. 6 months later, Emma Cross stood in the same country club where their fake engagement party had taken place, wearing a wedding dress that was even more beautiful than the one from their pretend ceremony. This time, when she said, "I do," she meant every word. As she looked out at the assembled guest Detective Rodriguez, Victoria Cross beaming with genuine joy. Colleagues from both their professions, Emma marveled at how much her life had changed. She was no longer a struggling freelance journalist. She was an award-winning investigative reporter whose expose of Blackstone Industries had led to a Pulitzer Prize nomination. More importantly, she was a wife, a partner, and a beloved member of the Cross family. "No regrets?" Sebastian asked, as they danced their first dance as a real married couple. Emma smiled up at the man, who had saved her life in more ways than one. "Not a single one." And as the music swelled around them and the crystal chandeliers cast their warm light over the celebration, Emma knew that sometimes the best love stories began with the most impossible circumstances. Sometimes when you were brave enough to take a leap of faith, you discovered that the person who saved your life could also capture your heart.